Chair recognizes Representative Stacy Evans to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that I have great respect for my seatmate, Representative Wade. We've been fortunate, or I feel fortunate, I don't know if he does, that we were seated next to each other on the seating chart. And I know his heart for education, and we've had a lot of great conversations about how we could do things better. We just happen to disagree on this bill. And for those of you that know me and that we served together in a prior life, you know that I'm not against thinking outside the box on education issues, that I don't have a knee-jerk reaction against changes in our education system. I know that we need to be innovative, and I know that we need to be bold. But I don't think that we're doing that generally, and I don't think that we're doing that here. This bill expands a program that already exists that we haven't studied. We haven't reviewed it. It doesn't have transparency. We don't know how it's working, for who it's working, and how we might make it better. Now, one good thing about this bill is that it does add some transparency. It's in the last section of the bill. But it does that while otherwise expanding the bill before we get the results of those transparency tools. Let's do the transparency first. Let's find out what we're working with, and then let's move from there. I think that would be the most prudent course. There are other problems that have been gone into, and I know the minority report will go into, so I'm not going to belabor those. I just want to kind of take a review of where we are as a whole in education. We're working with an outdated funding formula. I think this funding formula is actually older than some members of this chamber. Just think about that for a second. Joe Frank Harris was governor. It was the 80s. I think I was in elementary school the last time we really looked at the QBE funding formula. Despite how it's outdated, we also still underfund it. With one exception, have underfunded it. How about we fund it? Let's fund that formula and judge our schools after that. How about we write a funding formula that reflects what we know about education in 2021? Then let's fund that, and let's judge our public schools after that. We're not giving our public schools a chance to show us what they can do for our kids. We can't continue to fail to fully fund our public schools, change mandates year after year, back and forth, give, take, and then say, you're not getting it done. And we think more kids should have the ability to get away from you. That's not fair. Now, I know life is not fair, but we should be doing our best in here to make it as fair as possible. Some words to live by. Someone told me a long time ago. If you do what is easy, I know this isn't about the turtle on the fence post. If you do what is easy, the journey will always be hard. But if you do what's hard up front, eventually the journey will become easier. Fully funding our public schools, rewriting the funding formula, that is hard. We might have to revoke some lucrative tax breaks for our friends. We might have to raise the tobacco tax. We might have to do other hard things, but when we spend smart on education, we're gonna reap the reward. Our kids will reap the reward. Our economy will reap the reward, and we can say that we did it, that we worked together, that we dug in, we did the hard thing, and we did right by our kids. We haven't even tried to rewrite this funding formula, y'all, for the last 8 years since it was that we undertook that, when we abandoned that effort because it was hard. Let's do the big, hard things that we need to do for education and quit doing small things. Quit picking 500 kids here, 1,000 kids here, or 10,000 kids here. What about everybody else? Even if you think this is the most perfect bill, how many kids are we actually helping? Our responsibility is to all the kids in this state. We're picking out a few, and we're leaving the rest out there under what we know are outdated, underfunded conditions. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, I ask that you join me in voting against this bill, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes